The study session of the Aurora City Council for Monday, October 2nd, 2023 is called to order. Would the clerk please read the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs. Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Drinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Marcano.
Present.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Murillo.
Present.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Here.
And Councilmember Zvonek.
Here.
And Katie is Coombs. I am here.
All right, thank you.
There's no mayor updates. Are there any issue updates?
Mayor Gardner.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Councilmember Drinsky and I would like to remove item number 5A from the agenda, and we'll reschedule it for a future meeting.
Very well. Is there any objection to moving the consent calendar forward, item number 2A through 2C? Seeing no objection, the consent calendar will move forward. Item number 3A, FISR legislative and state ballot measures discussion. Liz Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. So I have two updates for you all tonight. So the first is the FSIR committee met on September 15th, and the following positions were taken on federal legislation. The committee took a support position on Senate Bill 1557, House Resolution 3238, Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act, and Senate Bill 1034, House Resolution 2367, Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. And the committee opposed House Resolution 3557, American Broadband Deployment Act. Are there any questions on the position or legislation before the second item?
Questions for Liz Rogers?
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So can you give a little bit more of an explanation for the reasons why and the reasons for the opposition to the Broadband Deployment Act?
Absolutely. So this is all described in the backup documents as well. But the American Broadband Deployment Act is an act that would codify FCC regulatory changes that essentially remove a lot of local control from broadband right-of-way usage in roads. So the city would no longer have information or say in what broadband companies are able to utilize roads in our existing infrastructure. But do you have any additional questions on that point?
Nope, thank you.
Anything else, Liz?
I do have a second item if there are no further questions on the federal legislation.
Please proceed.
Moving on to the second item, there are two ballot measures that will be brought before the state and two ballot measures brought before the FSIR committee, Propositions HH and II. Proposition HH is titled Reduce Property Taxes and Voter Approved Revenue Change. The description from Secretary of State is, the question referred to the voters is, shall the state reduce property taxes for homes and businesses, including expanding property tax relief for seniors and backfill counties, water districts, fire districts, ambulance and hospital districts, and other local governments, and fund school districts by using a portion of the state surplus up to Proposition HH cap as defined in this measure. And Proposition II reads and is titled Proposition EE Funding Retention Rate Reduction. And the question before the voters is, without raising taxes, may the state retain and spend revenues from taxes on cigarettes, tobacco, and other nicotine products and maintain tax rate on cigarettes, tobacco, and other nicotine products and use these revenues to invest $23,650,000 to enhance the voluntary Colorado preschool program and make it widely available for free, instead of reducing these tax rates and refunding revenues to cigarette wholesalers, tobacco product distributors, nicotine product distributors, and other taxpayers who are exceeding an estimate included in the ballot information booklet for Proposition EE. Staff did not recommend positions on these ballot measures and will take discretion from council. The FSIR committee unanimously voted to recommend to oppose ballot measures HH and II. We do have staff available to answer any questions on the ballot measures. And the question before council is, does council approve of the positions taken by FSIR on state ballot measure Proposition HH as opposed and Proposition II as opposed?
Let's do HH first. Any questions or comments on HH? Then I'll take that as opposing HH. II. Any comments or questions about II, Proposition II? Seeing none.
Yeah, Mayor.
Councilmember Cruz.
I mean, so for both of them, I think it's questionable for us to take a position of oppose. For I think especially given that we know there have been significant funding challenges for providing universal childcare, and that has actually ended up hurting the most impacted people. And so I just are like the people who would benefit most from the childcare subsidy, namely people who actually can't afford it. So, and I do wonder too, like if retaining this sales tax is ultimately helpful to the city, since we've had some issues, and have been in litigation over our own cigarette sales tax. And I don't know about that second part, but I do know that we should be retaining those taxes to support childcare.
Well, can somebody from staff comment on that? Because
Yes, I have Jeff Edwards here who can comment on that question.
state share, not the local share.
Yeah, so this would not affect anything for the city of Aurora, and Trevor Vaughn, he can actually talk a little bit more, but we're currently in litigation because we're not receiving any share back revenue for our cigarette taxes from the state. But this proposition II is strictly state retained, no share with the city of Aurora.
Very well. Well, let me put it, is there opposition to Pfizer's position, which is opposed to II?
Mayor, I oppose us taking a position on either of these bills.
Yeah, Mayor.
Okay, you know what, let's go back over, I'm surprised that there wasn't there wasn't opposition to Pfizer's position on HH, although I'm personally opposed. Let's go back over that. I think I went over it too quickly. And so let's discuss HH first. And for those, let me start. I guess I could go this way. For those that are opposed to Pfizer's position, is there opposition to Pfizer's position?
Yeah, so Mayor, my opposition is not that I have no questions or concerns about HH. It's that I don't support us taking positions at all on these ballot initiatives.
Mayor,
Councilmember Zwane.
yeah, if I could, so these measures are statutory in nature. We take positions on state statutes every year, all the time. This is just one that's being referred to the voters. And I think we also took a position which you voted for or voted in a opposition to a local initiative. So I guess you don't like that we're not doing it, but it's really no different than taking a position on any other state legislation.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just don't think that we have a compelling reason to oppose, right? I don't think we have a compelling reason to support either. I just don't think we have compelling reasons to take a position on either of these issues, right? On the local issue, we obviously had compelling reasons to do that. So that's the difference for me.
Mayor?
Councilmember Zwane.
Yeah, there's a really good reason for us to take a position as local representatives for the city of Aurora on HH, specifically the fact that it is going to be result in a massive tax increase. Despite the really friendly language that the legislature wrote for itself, they wouldn't have to go to voters to decrease taxes. So when they say they're cutting property taxes, it's a shell game, because what they're going to do is take away our Colorado cashback. You might remember last year we were celebrating the fact that so many Colorado families were getting $750 checks from the state. Well, those are going to go away over time. And I think at a time when costs are going up across the board, government raising the cost of living even further and trying to mask over the largest property tax increase in Colorado history, as opposed actually addressing it is something that we should stand up for on behalf of our residents.
Further discussion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
I think that we had a one-time $750 tax refund, and there's very little likelihood in a typical year. We don't all get $750 refunds. And most of us get a very small amount of revenue or a small refund. But it makes a huge dent in revenue. I do think that we should look at the actual positive impacts that that revenue may have for our schools and other services. And so that's where I think there's potential benefit. I also do have concerns about the property tax related issues and the way this has been framed. So I don't disagree with that, but I do think that there are enough there's enough question, right? It's not unequivocally a need for us to take a position that I just don't feel that we should.
Mayor, and if I could,
Councilmember Zvonek, then
yeah, thank you. And so again, I guess I disagree because you're talking about $3 billion of revenue, which is taxpayer dollars that the state would get to keep at a time when they already have a record amount of revenue to the state. I think we need to protect taxpayers in this instance, and this would turn off any opportunity for future Colorado cashback. And what the Ledge Council's projected is that we would continue to get these for many, many years because of the increased amount of revenue that the state is taking in. So again, would amount to maybe only behind the repeal of Gallagher as the second largest tax increase in state history. And I don't think that we should be saddling that on the backs of our taxpayers at this time.
Councilmember Bergen.
Yes, and I support the Pfizer committee's position to oppose HH and II. Again, not only taking away the taxpayer right to decide how our tax monies are going to be spent by our state government, but also the fact that they're saying shall property taxes be reduced. It's going to be a very small property tax reduction, and yet renters won't even benefit from it at all. They'll just have their tabor refund removed. So I highly recommend that my colleagues support the position.
Further discussion on HH. Seeing none, is there anyone in opposition to Pfizer's position on HH?
Mayor, I continue to oppose taking any position.
Okay, and
I oppose Pfizer's position, Murillo.
Councilmember Murillo. Anybody else in opposition, which is to the Pfizer's position on HH? Okay, then does this go? I think City Attorney, does this still go to the floor? Or are we done with it here?
No, you're done with it. So under the council rules, under Appendix F-B, it requires unanimous support to bring a ballot issue resolution forward.
I thought we changed that.
Oh, we changed that. Oh, sorry, Mayor. Yes.
Yes, Councilmember Zvonek, that was changed, correct. I believe you put that forward to change.
Yes, sir.
And we changed it to a super majority. Sorry about that.
Super majority or a simple majority?
Simple majority.
Simple majority, very well. Okay, then I see that a simple majority has risen in support of Pfizer's position, so that will be the position of the City Council.
Now the resolution comes forward to the next meeting.
Oh, so it does go forward.
Yeah, council's not allowed to vote at a study session, so it actually has to appear.
That was my question. That was my question earlier.
I apologize. I got lost in the majority versus unanimous.
Okay, so it does go to the floor. So we'll move forward.
Correct.
Then now Proposition II. Discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember
I just continue to oppose us taking a position on either of these ballot measures.
Very well. Further discussion on II.
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. I'm fine with us taking positions on these. I guess I just want to better understand Pfizer's position on this because this is something that would go to preschool and other educational needs. And it seems like the no vote on this one wouldn't actually benefit taxpayers. It would just go back to wholesalers and distributors. So I'm all for, expanding our ability to actually do all day, more pre-K for our youth. So I'm curious as to why the committee voted no.
Can somebody from the committee, Councilmember Lawson, do you remember what the arguments were on II?
I had a question and you went over, I had a question for Trevor.
I'm sorry, go ahead with your question.
Because that was kind of one of the things that I wanted to ask about. What is Trevor, this was the question, you weren't at the Pfizer committee, but I just need to know this. What was the fiscal impact of this to the city?
There's no direct fiscal impact to the city on this because it's just retaining revenues that the state has collected on these excise taxes.
Further discussion?
Mayor, if I could.
Councilmember Zavonic.
And again, so here's the challenge. We are already at our tabor cap for the state revenue. So if we just increase the more revenue through this stream, I don't care who it comes from, it's going to go to state and then it's going to be refunded. And I just don't think we need to be taking more money from whether it's businesses or individuals. The state is at their revenue limit and going to be for the foreseeable future. And hopefully when HH fails, that those dollars will continue to come back to Colorado taxpayers.
I'm sorry, II.
Yeah, I know, II, that's right. Because so the additional revenue that would come as a result of II passing would essentially just pad the additional tabor cap.
So it's a tabor exempt, the Trevor's tabor exempt, right?
So Mayor,
how does it work?
It
Councilmember.
would take from business.
But how does it, somebody to staff can give explanation how it accords with the tabor cap? Does it lift the tabor? Is this tabor exempt, this revenue?
This is Jeff Edwards, Mayor. I do not know if this is a tabor exempt revenue. However, this is coming back because the original Proposition EE that was approved in 2020 had an estimate for revenues, and the amount of revenues that were collected from that were higher than that estimate, which requires that to be refunded. So they said they were going to increase taxes by a certain dollar amount. That those revenues were exceeded, and now they have to refund it.
I see. So it is tabor exempt. Okay. Okay.
Mayor.
Councilmember Combs.
So to clarify, this is something that the voters already voted that, yes, they wanted this revenue to be collected for this purpose.
Just not above the amount. Then that's the clarification with this. Further discussion on II?
Yeah. Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. So I guess ultimately this comes, up to, do we want to support funding preschool programs or do we want to give money back to an addictive industry? I'm going to choose the kids every time. So I think we should actually support II.
Further discussion? Seeing none, is there opposition to II? It offers, I'm sorry, opposition to Pfizer's position. This is a double negative.
Yeah, I oppose it.
Okay.
Mayor, I also oppose that position.
You know as well. Further opposition? I've got Marcano, Coombs, and Medina.
Maria, I believe she spoke up as well.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Maria.
Yes.
Further opposition? II will move, the Pfizer's position on II will then move forward. Item number 3B, Judicial Performance Commission Ordinance. Councilmember Coombs. You're muted, Councilmember Coombs.
I may end up having to turn off my video. I'm having some connectivity issues, but we'll try here. So this ordinance has gone to public safety twice now. The basic crux is that it will create transparency, allowing the public to see judicial performance evaluations. And it will require the Judicial Performance Commission to prepare a summary report similar to that provided at the state level for judges, for review by the public to be made available online.
I'm sorry, but, Councilmember Cruz, let me ask you, under your ordinance, I'm sorry, is there a retention election like at the state level? Or that, because the reason why that exists is for the voters to understand how they're gonna vote on a retention election. How does it work under your proposal?
So at this time, we do not have a retention election, right? We're not a county. At some point, we may become a city and a county, and that's been an ongoing conversation. So this would put us in a position to be ready for that type of election should it occur. However, more importantly, it allows members of the public to have information about the performance of the judges in our city and will also allow those folks to reach out to their elected representatives. And we do make decisions about whether to retain judges. So this allows members of the public to have a voice through their elected officials regarding the retention of judges.
So I'd like to, Judge Day, I wonder if you could opine on this.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, members of council, for the opportunity. And I appreciate Councilmember Coombs and the stakeholding that she did when she met with the judges to talk about the issues. And some of them have already been brought up in the broader sense from the mayor's question and then Councilmember Coombs. And she listened to all the judges and their concerns as it relates to the ordinance and the changes. She incorporated a lot of what the judges brought up in the way of aggregate data, not specific, more pointed data for each individual judge. In addition, included a concern that the judges had about validity of the evaluations that were being returned. And so a lot of that has been included within the ordinance.
Very well, further discussion? Seeing none, is there any opposition to move item number 3B forward? Seeing none, item number 3B will move forward. Item number 5A has been removed. And seeing no further business before the Study Council of the Aurora City Council, this item is adjourned. I think this is a record. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you.
Have a good night.
Good night.